What's up, friends? Welcome to the Scrap Trawlers channel, where we do EDH on a budget. Today we're bringing you another deck tech. As always, our budget for this deck is $50 or less, excluding the commander and basic lands. For this episode, we're diving deep with a deck tech for one of the new C21 Commander Precon Legends. It's Octavia Living Thesis. Octavia is an 8/8 elemental octopus for 8 blue. It costs 8 less to cast if you have 8 or more instant and or sorcery cards in your graveyard. It has Ward 8, which is essentially hexproof. And whenever you cast or copy an instant or sorcery spell, target creature gets base power and toughness 8/8 until end of turn. So how are we going to win with Octavia? Our plan is simple. Fill up our graveyard with instants and sorceries to play Octavia as early as possible, and then drown our opponents with as many 8/8 creatures as we can. If we don't have Octavia around, we can still go wide with a plethora of tokens and unblockable creatures. On the token side, we have Talrand Sky Summoner, Murmuring Mystic, Metallurgic Summonings, and Docent of Perfection, which all make tokens whenever we cast an instant or sorcery spell. Rise from the Tides can give us an army if our graveyard is stocked full of spells. And Notorious Throng can net us at least 8 flying tokens if one creature gets through. And yes, we do have creatures to enable the prowl cost. Cackling Counterpart and Quasi-Duplicate can make token copies of our non-legendary creatures and can be cast from the graveyard, which is exactly where we want them. For evasive creatures, we have Invisible Stalker and Slippery Scoundrel, which are safe targets for Octavia since they'll have hexproof. Gingerbrute can give itself evasion for a single mana, and Nurok Invisimancer and Whirler Rogue can make other creatures unblockable. We also have some spells that grant unblockability. Artful Dodge and Distortion Strike can both be cast twice for more Magecraft triggers. Slip Through Space cantrips and Open Into Wonder can give a school of creatures unblockable with some added card draw. And Veil of Secrecy is a fantastic combination of protection and evasion. Since we care about instants and sorceries, including the few options that blue offers for extra mana helps us do double duty by getting to that magic 8 number for the graveyard and getting us ahead on mana. Retraced Image and Mitotic Manipulation will get an extra island into play, and High Tide is a classic spell to get us a burst of mana when we need it. For rocks, we have Everflowing Chalice, Soul Ring, Sky Diamond, Mind Stone, and Commander Sphere. We also have Prying Blade, which can net us a treasure every time we connect. Dreamscape Artist is a harrow on a stick, in blue. Being a spell shaper, it also helps by letting us discard cards. Did I mention we want to cast a lot of instants and sorceries? We have 37 in the deck, so making those cheaper will go a long way. Curious Homunculus can easily flip into Voracious Reader, and can become a sizable threat by making it an 8/8 with prowess. And Jace's Sanctum helps us filter to get to the spells we want the most. For our draw suite, we want to prioritize cards that draw and discard to fill up our graveyard fast. For instant speed looting, we have Thirst for Meaning, Thirst for Knowledge, and Frantic Search to put at least 2 cards in the yard. Read the Runes can let us draw and discard a ton of cards with enough mana. Fact or Fiction is a fantastic option as you can pick the pile best suited to your current needs. At 4 mana, Careful Consideration is a great rate for drawing 4 and discarding 3 cards. We also have Chemister's Insight, which can be cast from the graveyard with its Jumpstart ability. On the sorcery side, we have Careful Study, which does a good impression of Faithless Looting, and Chart a Course lets us discard 1 card or keep both if we've attacked with a creature. Deep Analysis can be cast from the graveyard with Flashback, and Breakthrough lets us pitch our whole hand if we need to. Finally, we have Ghostly Pilferer, which can freely discard cards to make itself unblockable, and will draw us a lot of cards over the course of the game. Blue's pretty good at removal too. For counterspells, we have Arcane Denial, Countervailing Winds, and the new Divide by Zero. Arcane Denial replaces itself, Countervailing Winds can be cycled if we don't need to counter anything, and Divide by Zero, which can hit uncounterable spells, is an Unsubstantiate with a discard and draw attached. To get around triggers and activated abilities, we have Nimble Obstructionist, which can be a flying 8/8 if we play our cards right, and Whirlwind Denial, which also deals with any storm triggers our opponents may have. Both of these cards also double as protection spells because they can help to stop graveyard hate, like Bajuka Bog or Scavenger Grounds, which would be awful for our deck. For board wipes, we have Ether Eyes and Ether Spouts. These are great budget defensive options to make our opponents think twice about sending creatures our way. To deal with single creatures, we have Pongify, Reality Shift, and Raven Form. Giving our opponents creatures isn't really a downside when most of ours have evasion, or will be big enough to survive combat damage. And with all of our evasive creatures, we can use Arm with Ether to bounce any problematic creatures back to our opponent's hands. Lastly, we have Willbreaker and Dismiss into Dream. Why are these in the deck? Well, Octavia's Magecraft ability can target any creature, not just our own. Willbreaker can let us steal a creature and make it an 8/8 for a surprise lethal blocker. Dismiss into Dream can get around indestructible and completely shuts off our opponent's auras and equipment. We're not quite finished with our spell suite. The Magecraft ability also triggers on spell copies, so Giga Drowse, Swarm Intelligence, and the Mirari Conjecture will get us extra Octavia triggers, with Mirari Conjecture giving us some much needed recursion. And for more recursion, we have Call to Mind, which is a regrowth for spells, and Bond of Insight, which will fill our graveyard and get us back 2 spells. Finally, we have Lazotep Plating, the blue-headed stepchild of Heroic Intervention, but it does its job well and gives us a token to pump. Alright friends, that is our budget Octavia Living Thesis deck. Thank you for watching. Leave us a comment below and let us know what you think. The link for the full deck list on Architect is in the notes below, so follow that link to take the deck for a spin in playtest mode. Make sure you hit the like and subscribe buttons, and don't forget to catch us streaming at twitch.tv/Scrap Trawlers every Sunday at 7:30 p.m. Central. Take care, everyone.